big picture about how volatile and dangerous Ukraine has become and the Middle East has become. President Trump, just about 15 minutes ago, it's now Monday, early Monday afternoon, announced a seismic shift, a dramatic increase in the amount of arms the United States would be sending to Ukraine through a circuitous route of selling them to allies who will then either sell them or give them to Ukraine. But the numbers are vastly increased over what they were even in the Biden administration. How do you read this, Colonel?
Well, I suppose if we look at it from the standpoint of what could have been announced and wasn't announced, it probably is not nearly as dangerous as it could have otherwise been. Originally, there were discussions of trying to impose a no-fly zone, which didn't make a lot of sense since the Russians very rarely fly manned aircraft over Ukraine. Virtually everything is unmanned or missiles or drones, whatever you want to call them. So that didn't make a lot of sense. Then there was this discussion of monumental tariffs that would be imposed on Russia, and it looks like President Trump has backed away from that, punting the whole thing 50 days into the future, which I think is probably the least damaging thing he could do for himself at this point. So what are these weapons? I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're going to try and send them Patriot missiles. I don't know what else we have planned. I don't see us providing any of the standard missile family, SM-2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. So I don't know what else we're giving them or selling to our allies. I don't know what the allies are going to provide. I was prepared for a stupid comment endorsing the decision of Chancellor Merz to use Taurus missiles against the Russians for the purpose of attacking the manufacturing facilities inside Russia that turn out so many weapons and missiles and rockets and so forth. Didn't hear that. So on the one hand, I think the glass is half full. In other words, it could have been much worse. And I don't know that what we're sending is really going to have much impact. I really don't think it will.
What do they think they're accomplishing? I mean, I don't want to get too political, Colonel, because I want to prevail upon your military expertise. In the same breath in which he made this announcement, he said, it's Joe Biden's war, it's not my war. It is his war if he's going to continue and even increase the rate of military supplies. So bigger picture, have the neocons become triumphant? Is this Lindsey Graham waging the war?
Well, I don't think Lindsey Graham could be very happy right now because he had hoped to achieve more. And I think he did the best that he could do in terms of manipulating President Trump. If you go back and listen to Graham's comments, which I reviewed earlier this morning because I was too busy yesterday to do so. And he talked about saying, well, Putin has got to learn that you cannot play Trump. And that really struck me as an interesting statement because that kind of statement would really appeal to President Trump. Nobody can play me. I'm Trump. You know, I'm the tough guy. I'm the boss. You can't play me. Putin's not going to play me. Of course, that's all irrelevant nonsense. It has nothing to do with actually what's happening on the ground, never did. But I'm sure that appealed in some ways to President Trump. But then in the subsequent 24 hours, I think President Trump began to look at some, grim realities. We have 8 days worth of missiles right now in our inventory. I'm talking about standard missiles, Patriot missiles. I don't know how many theater high altitude defense missiles we have. But the point is, after 8 days, we run out. And my sources inside the Department of Defense say, after 8 days, the conventional war is over and you have to go to a nuclear weapon. And I don't think President Trump wants to do that. So I think what he's doing is pretty typical for what most politicians do, Judge. He wants to be a little bit pregnant. Well, how do you get a little bit pregnant? Well, you give some things, but not everything. So in the final analysis, what has he changed? Nothing. Nothing fundamentally has changed at this point. And the interesting part is that my sources, and I do have some inside the administration, tell me that behind the scenes, there are talks between Moscow and Washington at very high levels, and they seem to be going well. So, this is more of the same. It's politicians don't like to be decisive. They don't like to take firm positions unless they're absolutely confident that everything will go their way. So I think what you're getting from President Trump is half a loaf, which in the final analysis on the battlefield will be no loaf at all.